Big crowd here. Okay, I'd like to call the September 3rd Finance Committee meeting to order. We'll go ahead and do attendance first. So we'll go with Alderwoman Van Buskirk.
Here.
All right. Alderman Myers.
Here.
Alderman Hunt.
Here.
Alderman Mims. She should be here in a minute. And then myself, Alderman Gree, and I am here. So at any rate, let's go ahead and see if I can get a motion for the approval of the August 20th Finance Committee minutes.
Mr. Chair, so moved.
All right, got first by
Second.
Alderman Myers. All right, second by Alderwoman Van Buskirk. All right, take a vote on it. Alderman Myers.
Yes.
Van Buskirk.
Yes.
Alderman Hunt.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes myself, so that'll be unanimous approval of the August 20th minutes there. Okay, so moving on. We'll start off with the budget review for Community Development Department. So, Ray, take it away for us, please.
Good evening.
Hello.
I hope everyone looked at the fiscal year 19-20 budget. And I'm not going to go through every line item. What I'm going to talk about, a couple of the highlighted ones that I believe that we need to talk about. The number one issue is the personnel services. If you notice that
Is what, Ray? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
the personnel services,
Okay.
that we had an increase on that item, and mainly due to if the rental regulation program goes through and get approved by the board, then we need to hire extra staffing, an inspector, a permit tech, and possibly and a vacant position also for the neighborhood services vacant position that's included. But generally for those 2 or 3 extra staffing services that we need to conduct the rental program inspections. The next item is that you might see substantial increases, the veterinary services, the veterinary board services, boarding services. And that's due to, we noticed in the last couple of months that there was an increase in testing and exam and treatment of the animal. So we budget a little bit more for that for the next fiscal year. One of the items that, if you see on the next page, is the planning advisor, that in the past we budgeted for the planning advisor, but since we hired our planning and zoning coordinator, then we removed that from for the budget for the next years. So that's, if you want to call it, a plus for us. And hopefully that we don't need to utilize a planning advisor in the future. With that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you guys have for me.
All right. Did you want to go? You're about to hit the button there.
I don't know if I have a question or not. I just saw that I know everybody's liability insurance went up, and I know it went up a little bit for everybody else, but for community development, it tripled.
I can answer that really easily. Hopefully you'll get this on. There you go. We did have an increase this year. The insurance policy went up and had a reasonable jump in it, as reasonable as insurance goes. The difference is that in the past we had it broken out by the provider, by department, and this year they discontinued doing that.
Okay.
And so we had to come up with a different plan to do that. And as long as you have a plan and you can provide detail for it, it's acceptable by the auditors.
Gotcha.
So what we did is we took all of the people in each department and broke it out that way. So it cost them increases in some departments and some minor decreases in other departments.
Okay, so it was just some, I guess, reallocating and
It
just
is.
kind of updating how we did it.
It is.
Okay. That's all I have.
Alderwoman Van Buskirk.
How much overtime did you use last year? I see on here it was like civilian overtime, or I guess this is a request for next year. You want 38,570.
Yes, that's a combination of special hours and overtime. It's not just the overtime.
Okay, special hours would be like Bubba Spins, that type of thing?
No, special hours when, of course, if we have the 3 code officers on duty, right now we have 2, but in reality, when we have 3, then each one of them, they are on call from 5 until 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's considered special hours, and we pay them $1 an hour when they're on call. If they receive a call, that's 1 hour overtime. If they come to the city and respond in order to take care of the complaint, that's minimum 2 hours of overtime.
Okay.
So the special hours they're just basically standby in order if needed to come to the city. So those are
Okay.
considered special hours.
Okay. Another question? Okay, professional services, what's that? Operating supplies and uniforms, is that what it entails?
No, professional services is a combination of the veterinary services, adoption services, tree services, and pet cremation. So it's a combination of those 4
Those 4, okay.
activities or services provided.
Okay. And you've got down here tree service. You cut down trees?
Yes, we have a contractor that if our nuisance contractor not able to take care of the tree services, in many cases he's not, then we call our tree service company, then he goes out, gives us a bid, and if he gets approval, then he goes take care of the
Okay.
removal of the tree. Yes.
Okay, all right. Another one, 7 iPads.
Yes, from my understanding, our court system going to the mobile ticketing and have to be done digitally.
Okay,
And we decided to buy some of these iPads, and if in case, we have to go that route. That's not an option that yes
have
or
to.
no.
right.
So if in case we go that route, then we have that budget in order to purchase the iPads, to take pictures, write notes, and download it on the desktop and create the tickets immediately.
Okay, I know at one point in time, they bought for the code officers' trucks, some kind of little computers or something for them. Are they still using those?
No, we are not. We have not used those in at least 10 years, I would say 9 years since I've been
They're
here.
just outdated, or?
Since I started working here at that time, they were not using it, so I'm not sure what was the reason they were not used, but they have not been used since then, no.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you. Alderman Hunt.
Good evening, Ray.
Hi.
Hi. Now, is the code enforcement covered under the civilian employees?
Yes.
Okay. Can we talk for just a moment out loud here about the fact that we haven't had full employment in that position, I don't think, even this year, and even the previous year? How has that affected the overall expenses being paid in that area?
Well, we did have full employment, but again, unfortunately, since I've been here, I guess if you want to call it, I've been lucky not to have 3 code officers at the same time for a full year. It's always been either, for whatever reason, that we went down to 2 instead of having 3. But majority of the years that I've been here, we basically were down at least one code officer.
Is there a thought process from your position as to how you could actually get this covered more consistently?
Well, the job itself, it's obviously a lot of people are aware of that. The job itself is a very thankless job. It don't matter how many years experience you have, eventually you get burned out. We had code officers been here. They were here for 9 years. They just said, can't do this no more. That's one issue. The other issue, obviously, the pay. We are one of the lowest paying salary within metro area that I'm aware of. And a lot of people, they come here, they work for a year or 2 or less, and they see an opening somewhere else with a couple of dollars more, and they just apply and leave. So that's another part of the issue, that we are one of the lowest paying officers within the metro area.
I made a suggestion to you and your department on whether you could use someone else to help cover these vacancies from a different department, whether it be Public Works, whether it could be, some other division ran with the city. Have you thought about that at all?
If it's a temporary basis, I don't think that's a good idea, because, for example, let's say even animal control part of it, you want to go impound an animal, you need to have a good experience, good understanding of what you're doing. But if it's a long-term basis, a year or two, maybe, but short-term, I don't think it's a good idea to go that route, to have someone else from another department come and get used to the process, and then a month or two later, go back to their old position. So I'm not sure that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're still addressing the fact that there's many things that are not being covered here in Raytown as far as the consistency of the code standards. And, I think last year I asked the question, are you able to get these things accomplished with the teams that you have in place? And I don't see how you can do that with so many vacancies appearing throughout the year. And so something has to be done if we want to see our city improve consistently on an improvement level, because we've watched it go the other way for so many years, evidently. Okay? I haven't lived in this town more than 8 years, but it's taken quite a while to get it to where it's at right now in some areas.
Well, if we consistently have 3 code officers on duty, we can handle, I would say, 80-90% of the complaints. But if we are consistently down at least 1 code officer on a yearly basis, then yeah, I agree, that's not sustainable in order to enforce the code or even animal control. So it's one of those situations that we need to have at least 3 code officers on duty on daily, weekly, yearly basis in order to enforce these regulations.
You've got $500 being pegged to do training for code officers. How much does it take per officer as far as training dollars?
Well, the $500 is basically to go to MACE or the Missouri Animal Control Associations. They provide training, and their training is not very expensive. It's a half a day here, a day there. But the main one that I like to send code officers to, which they don't come to Kansas City anymore, it's MACA. It's a nationally recognized animal control training. It's a week-long training, and it costs, 4 years ago, they were about $850 just for the training. Mm-hmm. And they have several levels. The main level is the first level. I like for code officers to go for animal control. But then if they're out of town, then we have to factor in the travel time, room and board, meals. So it becomes costly for 1 code officer to go each year for training out of town.
Okay. Another area that we have not been able to get much footage on is the brush of kindness. If we would get some traction in that area, we would start seeing results as far as improvements in certain areas of the city. Damon, are you on board right now to answer a question? Or is this just Ray's show at this moment?
It's still Ray's show. But,
Okay.
okay.
So,
But I did want to speak to one of the things we have been. We took note what you said, Alderman Hunt, and one of the things we have been talking about is the fact that our current code officers do dual duty, animal control and code. And so we're looking at maybe opportunities to divide those as we move forward. things we think about, like if we do the rental regulation, if it goes through, that allows us to have a little bit more mobility in what those officers do. I mean, for one of the things is that the hope is that someone doing rental regulation would help with enforcement, communication with the public, pointing out things for us also, but also kind of gives a little bit more mobility of maybe allowing a officer to do just code enforcement or just animal control, to look at those things. So, the other thing we look at is, like you mentioned, brushing with kindness. Some of it comes about as not having the communication with the public so they're aware of what we have to offer, along with how they can help us with enforcing the codes and contacting us about that so we can follow up, and along with us tracking that on our side. So those three things that we're trying to work on also. One is our communication with our public. The other is communication internally so that when we get that information, we're able to transpose that information pretty quickly. And the last one is making sure that as our public knows and are more informed of what to look forward to. I mean, like we said before, our eyes can't be everywhere. And even with 3 officers around a city of our size, with the amount of area to cover, that's pretty hard to do when you have them doing dual duty. So, but we have to inform our public of things that they can do to help us with that and help us be more efficient in what we're doing. So, I just wanted to speak to that. I know Ray mentioned about the pay. The pay is one, and it's very much so. It's evident. But also, you think about the pay and the fact that you're doing dual duty with what you're doing. So, you want someone who's cross trained, and I'm learning this myself. As I've gotten in there with Ray and kind of started asking more questions about it. I mean, when you think about a person that's trained both in animal control, but also in code enforcement, those are not a typical skill set all the time that you may see. And if they are, they're someone that most people understand they want to try to keep long term. So we've been grateful for the employees we do have, but we're also looking for others to increase our staff regarding that. And most of all, I mean, to serve our citizens in that. Like we said, their home is one of the largest investments, so we want to make sure that they can keep that investment going.
Now is the time to worry about the salaries as far as salary increases. Would the 465, 697 allow us to do any increases on the code enforcement persons or not?
He's asking about.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just. Well, the 465, it's for the entire department civilian salaries.
Correct. So, but you told me the code people were part of that system, correct?
Yes.
So, and looking at that as a whole perspective, do we have any latitude or room to increase the salaries of the code people?
Well, not within this budget, not within this amount that's been budgeted for.
So we would have to wait another year?
Again, that's the board can give us direction to increase the salaries. And if that's the direction we want to go, sure, we can include in this budget. But with this budget, it's based on the salaries we are giving the staff right now.
Public safety sales tax, is that something that we could look back on to give us any assistance?
Sure.
We will. Our intent is to look back what we have totally once we get all the budgets put together and look what we have remaining regarding those. Yes. What he does have is a COLA and a merit increase, which is 1.5%, which is pretty minimal. That's more of a cost of living adjustment. But as far as increase, as far as the salaries that you may have currently, you also have to do a couple other things, and we're kind of looking at that administratively, is particularly maybe doing a study of our salaries, just not even just this department, of other departments that Debbie, with our human resources, has talked to us about doing. And that is something that we looked at maybe doing this year, kind of to see what we have worked out regarding overall. So before we move forward and finalize anything, we will come back with you all to what we may have remaining and what our suggestions will be financially from Russell and myself and other staff members to give us more of an update of where we can go forward, or suggestions of where we can go forward.
Thank you for looking at it, guys.
Okay, Ms. Van Buskirk.
I just want to say, Ray, that I think what codes are doing now and what they did a year or year and a half ago, there's a big improvement. And I just want to say thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, appreciate that.
And I know it's not an easy job. I wouldn't want it. I know I called up here. I called the other day, and the poor girl answered the phone. And I said, "Is this the department that you called a gritch and bitch?" And she just laughed. And I said, "I'm just kidding you. I'm just kidding you." But I said, "I do have a question." But, I mean, that's what they get when they answer the phones. And so I just want to say thanks.
Thank you.
I did have one question about clarification. So as the, on the civilian employees section, you mentioned earlier, so it's one of those positions is anticipating the rental regulation component, correct?
There'll be at least two.
Oh, at least two, I'm sorry. Okay, I just want to make sure. So out of that fund there, the civilian employees, the 465 number, you're going to have two positions for the rental regulations, correct?
Yes.
Is that, okay, am I pointing to the right account? Okay. And then that also funds 3 codes officers,
Yes.
okay. That obviously I'm sorry, Damon, you wanted to jump in? I feel like you. For the codes. I'm sorry, I'm listening.
Yeah, it's 2 for rental regulations, and then we are looking to add in another code officer.
Because right now we have 2.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're looking to add one. So, but this fund, that comes out of that fund, for instance. That's what I'm trying to get at. Okay. Before I get to the second part, so that same also pays for your position. I'm just trying to get all the positions that the civilian employees section pays for. That
Yes.
465 number. So obviously, the director of the department's position there.
Yes.
Okay, so they got the 3 codes, the 2 rental regulations, your position. What else am I missing? Okay, that's right.
Okay. Currently, we have building official,
Yeah.
director, 3 neighborhood services,
Okay.
3 neighborhood services specialists, and 2 permit techs and planning and zoning coordinator.
Planning and zoning coordinator. Okay. Real quick, how's the search going for the codes position?
Not very good. We set up interviews with several candidates. Unfortunately, majority of them didn't show up. But then I received more applications from Michael, from admin, and I'm going through them, and hopefully we can pick some candidates to interview here pretty soon, maybe within next week.
So there has been people applying, just
Yes.
not
Yes,
what we're looking for.
yes.
Okay. All right. I appreciate the candor on that. And so, at any rate, did anyone else have any other questions concerning community development? Shocking, none. Shocking. All right. Well, thank you, Ray. I appreciate it. I feel like Damon's wanting to jump in again one more time. Or I'm mistaken. You good? You good? Okay. You haven't jump in. All right. So let's move on to citywide. Thanks, Ray.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
So this is general fund citywide. And I assume you'll be the point man for this, huh, Damon? All right. Ready when you are, sir.
Yes.
All right.
General fund citywide did not change much. We pretty much, we look at the tuition reimbursement that we offer to our employees. We're hoping to promote that more this year and have more take advantage of it this year.
Was that cut previously?
It was
Or-
not cut, but I don't believe.
No, nobody took advantage of it, so it ended up being zero is what it was.
Actually, we had
Or-
2 that took advantage this past year.
Maybe I'm thinking 2 years ago there
It was,
wasn't anything.
I believe it was 2 years
Okay.
ago, and they just
All right.
brought it back.
Okay.
So, but I think this year we'll do more of a promoting of that. The other thing we have here is majority of our dues and professional items, they're pretty much the same as before. The one that we did, as you go down your computer services, really didn't change. What it was is that the amounts that we had, like in professional services, we moved down to put in computer services. So.
Now, I would be remiss if I didn't make a comment about the Comcast. I think every budget, I've been beaten on this every year, but sorry, that $5,200 Comcast, I'm not a huge fan. I get the point, but I noticed our live stream meetings are $9,000 spent on that. I honestly think that's a decent money spent for a similar objective. I think I think more and more people are starting to utilize the live stream services, and obviously having that opportunity to have the meetings saved like that, people can jump on that. I hope the school district, I don't know if my understanding is they're going to do this or not. I think Rick Toady might have had a conversation about trying to promote that. Hopefully they do. I think it's a great service to offer the public.
I think so too. I think a lot of people take advantage.
Yeah.
But,
Anyway.
you'd be surprised how many people take advantage.
Oh, yeah. Would I? Are you sure? All right. I'm sorry. Continue.
We did add a Comcast terminals upgrade. That is more of an IT item, but that is the change in the amount. One thing I would have to add down to repairs and maintenance with the that will be removed. We will put that all in Public Works budget, so that will be removed from this one.
Did liability insurance go up this year as
Yes.
well?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that one, the other one that went up on that one was we increased our, the budget book. That's what it was. We went up on our budget book, mainly because of the amount we were printing. We had doubled that from 400 to 800. So
Okay.
they were pretty small increases on them totally.
All right. Does anybody have any questions concerning the citywide budget? Ms. Van Busker?
What's the citywide marketing?
Those are, where you at?
It's under printing and promotions.
Yes, whenever we send out things like our newsletter, well, we do the newsletter also, but the marketing and promoting of the city itself. So if we do something with our website upgrades, or if we do something like a outreach for community. So we also this year, we didn't do much as we should have this year. We actually worked on that video this year, which was a grant-funded one, so we didn't need to do anything additional. And we're still, this update on that one, we're finishing up on that one as the edits and the cuts come back. So,
Okay. All right.
All righty. If I don't see any other questions about citywide, let's go ahead and move on to governing body and administration.
so this one decreased from last year, but you will notice an increase in our citywide cleanup coupons. Last year we had it at 22, we raised it to 40, but we have used that quite a bit this year with what happened with the storm. A lot more people are more aware of it. We're promoted even more in our newsletter, and a lot have taken advantage of it. So I think it's a great program. It's one that we've tried to get grants on, and we'll continue trying to go towards that direction, but it's been very successful. So other than that, majority of the other items have been pretty much remained the same from last year.
Any questions regarding governing body budget? Okay.
This is also a good example of what, and by the way, I want to publicly thank Russell for his work he's done thus far with our budget. explaining the questions you all may have. One of the things was the liability. This one went down compared to where it was last year because of the re-bracketing of where the liability was.
All right,
That's why you see such a decrease.
this is a good job. Real quick, regarding administration, I guess we do have a question. Okay. I just didn't know if anybody had a question, because administration was thrown in with governing body, but, Ms. Mims?
What I just wanted to say was thank you so much, Russ, and for you, Ray, and Damon. And the reason I'm saying that, because this is so detailed, where normally when we didn't have all the information, that's why I don't have that many questions, or have none, because it's right here and it's broken down. And so the piece that we always talk about, transparency, here it is. So I just wanted to say thank you, because it made it very easy. And the couple questions that I did have got answered before I even walked in the room. So thank you, guys.
Ms. Mims, you bring a great point, and I would encourage anybody, if anybody's listening, you know, there's always questions that come up about the budget and how money's being spent, but like Ms. Mims just alluded to, and everything's very well itemized and organized. It's very easy to read. I'm thankful. I'm sure everyone else is thankful for this, but I'd encourage anybody listening, if any, that you got questions how your money's being spent, it's right here. You know, it's completely transparent, and I see several eyes on it, and I'm very thankful for that as well. That's a good point, Ms. Mims. All righty, let's go ahead and rotate over to the last one of the evening. This is the Risk Management Fund.
No, admin. Yeah, admin. Administration.
Are we doing admin?
Admin.
I thought the admin was being lumped in with governing body. We can do the admin separately. That's fine. We'll go with the admin page.
Yes, admin page, the general increases were like before with the insurance and your general liability. The other one that I added in this one this year is I've really been kind of promoting the opportunity of maybe looking at hiring a person to help with what I would call a PIO, Public Information Officer, and a grants writer, one to do both, a dual role. The overall general, going back to what Alderwoman Van Buskert asked, overall general marketing, but also overall general outlook of the city, so that when we do things like grants and items like that, we have a one way of doing it. When I say one way, I'm just thinking about marketing wise. But now, so when I start to look at how much we have that came towards us in the past few months, and what we'll look for, having someone with that background, administrative capabilities would be beneficial with us in going towards the future. A lot of these grants, other items that we have, look at how you market your city. Most of those things are done several years ahead. Like the one I'm doing with Public Works, where you go for those STP projects, they're looking at the 2050 plan. So the fact that we were at the table for the 2020 plan did not help us with the 2050 plan. So when you're already kind of behind the eight ball regarding certain things, excuse my words, I shouldn't say behind the eight ball, but behind on your progress as far as being at the table with things, it kind of puts you in a conundrum because you want to go for those things. They want us to utilize them, but we have to have the assets there to do it. So that's the one addition we had to this budget, was that personnel.
Alderman Ryan Myers.
Just one question on the dues and membership. It says 11,620, but adding it up, I only get 2,620. My math could be off. I went
It's
Raytown.
not off. Now that I look at it, it's not off.
Yeah.
Spreadsheets, they tend to have a mind of their own. So that would decrease that quite a bit.
Okay.
Okay, I did want to bring up one more thing that you got me thinking about the PIO grant. I know you previously discussed having that hybrid type position, and I think it's obviously it could be a real positive direction. I do feel that having just a PIO for the city of Raytown, I personally just didn't feel it was very necessary for having just that position. But I'd also like to bring up a suggestion. I mean, just in the back of the head, you know, I know the grant writing situation. I think that's a good idea there. I remember years past, or at least last year, I should say, we talked about having somebody for with the purchasing order and trying to ensure the best type of bid was, or at least in terms of when you're trying to buy and purchase items. Is that something still being considered? I'm sorry, I just thought about that when you brought
No
that
problem.
hybrid position up.
It is. It is something we're still being considered of, and we've actually tried to interview, and that is just trying to get the skill set to have both of those. And so we've kind of looked at is with administration and finance working very closely. If it does not work out to where we can have that position, that PIO / grant writing person, we would like to put that skill in another position and maybe put it in finance and just opt out like what we've been doing before, with maybe having a consultant work with us on the PIO portion. So we're kind of looking at morphing depending on how it goes with what we put out there. So our objective is to try to get those type of personnel, but if we can't with the money we're getting, we're going to figure out another way and combine the skill set in a different department and still kind of try to get what we need out of that. So kind of looking in both directions. And that is somebody priority-wise, we would rather get the person that would help us with the contracts and things of that sort, which is currently advertised in Russell's department as finance. That would be our first priority. So we're still trying to get that portion.
Appreciate the update. All right, does anyone else have any more questions concerning administration? Okay. And now, finally, Risk Management Fund.
Yes, risk management. The majority of it is still the same as last year. 90,000 of it is for claims if necessary. We have not used that amount this year. We keep it in case when you have risk management items that may come about, whether it be items like potholes, things like that may come before you, or insurance claims. Our insurance company does a very good job with us. Right now, NPR that we use on the liability side, we use them actually on both sides, and work with us pretty closely and try to mitigate this.
Anyone have any questions regarding risk management? Didn't think so. All right. Well, thank you, Damon, for the information. Appreciate it. Here, a motion to adjourn. All right. First by Alderman Mims, second by Alderman Ryan Myers. All right, we'll call a vote. Alderman Mims?
Yes.
Alderman Myers?
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk?
Yes.
Alderman Hunt? Yes. And I'll vote yes. All right, meeting's adjourned at 6:37. Thank you.